If you're hearing this message or seeing me deliver it, it means you're listening to or watching the public feed of my podcast, and we're about to get to the episode where I talked to my sister for a long time, and I think she might lightly embarrass me, as I recall. It's been a while. That's the point. It's actually been about 6 months, 5 or 6 months since this originally released. And if you don't want that much time to elapse between now and the next time you hear my voice, well, you can jump on season 2, which is already fully available to my patrons. It's getting close to the end of that one as you get close to the end of season 1 here. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't worry, the rest of them are going to come out slowly but surely over here for the public as well, every other Thursday. And then on the other Thursdays, the new ones are going to come out on Patreon. So if you want to get fully up to speed and hear what's going on as of, like, right now, jump on over to patreon.com/jswanson and you can get an ad-free experience without this intro right into your inbox pretty much as soon as it's recorded. Otherwise, it'll be right here for you as well in public 5 or 6 months later. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy this conversation with my sister. And thanks to today's sponsor, NordVPN, for sponsoring the episode. And you'll find out more about them later. On with the episode. Swanson.
Start this.
Do you want to frame us with another plant or something?
Between two friends.
Between
Two.
a citronella and a monstera.
What family
They're
are those in?
What?
What family are they in?
Mine.
My sister is the resident botanist, so she knows all of the tricks and facts about plants.
By all, if you mean all, I know this much.
She knows a lot more than I do. I have 4 houseplants, one of which was dead before I left because it was an outdoor plant that I bought in an indoor pot and didn't read the little sticker on the inside of the second thing saying this is to be replanted outside until I got home. I was like, cool, that's not really an option. So that one just was a dry reminder of why we should read all the fine print. And then I had 3 other plants that I've had for a long time, probably 2 years at least, through the whole pandemic, so probably even close to 3 years. And I think one of them died under the watchful eye of my buddy Mark, surgeon friend, who is better at healing humans than maintaining plants. But that's okay, because he did think that the 4th plant was alive and was watering it regularly until he was like, I think 2 of your plants might not be making it. And I was like, one of them already hadn't made it.
Well, Mark, if it makes you feel better, the last people will ask me to plant sit for them. So some friends moved to Cabo for a couple months and they asked me to take their plants while they were gone. So I did, because that's the kind thing to do, right? And I think 2 of them I killed. So even I can't heal people or plants. Well, that sounds rude.
Sounds like some people and things are just too broken. But I'm here in San Diego with my sister in her backyard. For context, for those of you that can't see what's going on, if you're listening to this, we're sitting on her wonderful back porch. They did a great job. Their backyard has evolved over the last few years into a delightful little paradise that, through the pandemic especially, I think helped to keep you sane.
Yep, for sure.
And there's been a lot of big changes in their lives. There's one of the reasons that I'm here. The reason that is publicly known that I'm here is that I'm here to meet my nephews.
Yep.
They adopted 2 delightful boys who I love very much. They're very cute, and I've enjoyed spending as much time with them as possible. And that time is coming rapidly to a close, unfortunately. But I wanted to have my sister on this first season of my podcast as a guest because she's been a huge part of my life. My whole life, minus 2 years and 3/4 of a year.
I've been a huge part of your life by being Velcroed to you against your will.
At the beginning, yeah.
For many years.
Yeah, but this has been a point of conversation over the last couple weeks, especially with my dad. He was asking me, he was like, if there's anything you could change looking back, I already told you this, but if there's anything you could change looking back, what would it be? Should we have moved somewhere else? Should we have done this or that? And there's some things that I thought of that I was like, probably shouldn't say that. And then, but at the time I was like, no, life is the way it is, whatever. And then when I was capturing some of our old videos, which is actually one of the lead-ins I was going to ask, what is it like being the sibling that is demonstrably better on camera and yet never on camera? You can answer here in a minute, because she is definitely better on camera than I am. But
I've been in a couple commercials. You forget that.
Yeah.
Real commercials.
That's true.
So I did such a good job. I won a couple Emmys, and then I hung up my hat.
And then just hung up your hat. 2 truths and a lie. And so
I don't own any hats.
that's also a lie. And so I was just watching my sister be amazing and hilarious on camera, and I made the best ever wallpaper out of these.
If you follow him on Instagram,
You've
he
seen
shared
them.
it.
I can share it as a wallpaper for anybody who wants it.
No. No, that's creepy. Nobody needs to have 12-year-old Karin on their phones.
I don't know about that.
That is creepy.
This version of 12-year-old Karin is the best version possible.
No.
Oh my God.
That's
So
what
amazing.
12-year-olds used to look like.
Oh, anyways, well, that one will stay private. But if you missed it, it was on there. And anyways, I was just thinking about it, and I was like, I would have spent more time with my sister. We could have made more ridiculous videos. Could have hung out. We did hang out a fair amount in high school.
We did.
Like at the end of our
We
time.
went through phases of best friendship where I waited for you to think I was your best friend again, and then you would come back around.
And
we'd
I
be best friends for a while.
Excuse me, I was an absolute fool for not realizing that you are my best friend.
No, you were a normal older brother.
I
You were a normal teen boy.
I will take that, but I also you were
With
the
a little
coolest,
sister.
the coolest little sister ever. You really were. So I really missed out on that one, and I do regret that because we could have had so much fun. We did have a lot of fun when we had fun.
We did.
But then we had sad times when we didn't have fun. I wish we would have had more fun and less sad times, pure sad times.
If only we could all go back and be our current selves when we were 15, we would have done a couple things differently.
That's number one for me. That's
I would have hung out with you.
I know.
I still would have been open to hanging out with
That would
you.
have been an easy solution. I was a one-sided problem, and I wish I could go back and fix that. So
That's A-okay.
it's been good, though. I think it's been a good reflective time back. And yeah, I don't know. Just thought we'd chat on the deck. We're using a pair of microphones that I will be returning.
Yeah, do you want to check if they're working?
They are working. I will double check just since you brought that up. The only thing is the problem we were having earlier is when I can't check until after we're done recording. This is the problem of being a solo creator and not being able to listen to what you're making.
But wouldn't it be better to pause it and then start it back up, and all anyone would see is just a blip?
Yeah, I could do that.
Just
But
so we don't talk for 30
here's
minutes
the
and
problem.
then it's all gone.
To check the audio and actually be sure,
You have to do it on your computer.
I'd have to do it on my computer,
Which you don't have.
which I don't have.
Well,
So we're just gonna go with it and
Sad
trust.
song.
That I fixed the problem at home.
oh, you did fix it.
I did, and I tested it.
Oh,
and
I
it
thought
was
it was still
working.
being done.
No, so for context, basically what happened is I ordered these. They're the upgraded version of the microphone I already have. Not the one I wanted, but the problem is the one that I wanted with DJI, because they're in a little bit of hot water with certain government agencies in the U.S. They are not allowed to sell and do their activities in places that make it kind of inconvenient to use, even though they're the best in drones. And then they made these microphones that I don't have that I really want. And so at the time I was like, well, these Rode microphones are a little bit cheaper and they're available on Amazon. I can get them to Karin's house in no time, and then we can be using them for this. And then this morning I went to use them for the first time and record a video with Cooper, and I filmed all morning. I was really excited about it. Feeling really good because I've not been feeling like working at all this entire trip. I've been kind of in a miserable place. And so I was like, oh, I'm so ready for this. And then I sat down to edit it, and it's just crackling and popping over all the audio.
Snap, crackle, and pop.
Unusable. And then you're like, oh, here's a minute where it's like sounds good, and all of a sudden, and just like, ah! So anyways, I figured out what the problem was, but not before I decided, you know what, I'm gonna return these and I'm gonna get the ones that I really wanted, even if I have to wait a little bit. And that's the whole story. So now we don't fully trust them. That's the issue. I feel like once your trust is broken in a piece of recording equipment, it's really hard to get it back.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when
Trust is a delicate thing.
it is a delicate thing, and I don't have anybody sitting behind the camera listening to be like, oh, no, we got to fix this.
Yes, we already discussed that. You're a solo creator,
Yeah.
which is news to everyone listening.
Well, the reason that term came to mind was because one of the guys I was watching who was talking specifically about these microphones brought up the whole, like, if you're a solo creator. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that as a term.
Oh, I am a
For a
solo
while.
creator.
Oh, yeah.
I am an individual creating all by myself.
Oh,
Solopreneur, creator. Solo creator. Solo creation.
Don't know what that key was, but here we are. So yeah, how's it been having me around?
Full of plenty of beautiful songs.
You're lucky
Thank you.
to have.
I know I'm lucky. Should I just hit your mic?
Yeah, just hit the microphone. Just patting me on the. Yeah, that sounded great. I'm sure anybody listening with nice high fidelity headphones really appreciated that.
You are so welcome. Please like and subscribe in the comments. Let me know how much you liked that mic tap, and we will continue to do more of that.
Oh gosh, next time.
It's been great having you around. I like hanging out with you. I like seeing you. I like that we are both fulfilled and off on our adventures, and then we get to collide again and hang out and see each other in person.
Me too.
Yeah,
I would ask her more
nice to have
questions
you
about
here.
herself and her life, but there's a lot of elements of her life that are very private right now, so I don't want to wander into any minefields. It's not just about me. I'd like to know more about you on camera, but
I know. That would be great. Someday maybe
someday.
I will.
There are a lot of
I'll
people
write
watching that
manifesto.
have known you for a long time, because Karin's also been around, and her husband, who might join us behind the camera here at some point, have been involved with my YouTube journey from the beginning.
Yep.
Even as skeptics, you weren't so skeptical.
I
Kevin
wasn't
was
a
very
skeptic.
skeptical
It was
at the
just
beginning. It was more about the ambitions of the
couple
day's
of
project,
things.
but
Yes. It's just there was a couple things happening. One, you were utilizing YouTube as a creative outlet and tool, which was you needed for sure when you began. But it was 25-minute videos of you chucking furniture and driving around town, and then
they weren't 25 minutes back then.
talking.
They felt like it, maybe, but
There were some that were definitely up there.
they were too long. They were definitely
They
too long.
were too long,
Anytime
and you
they
would
crossed
just
the 7-minute mark,
you would
they
just
got to
talk,
be too long.
and I would hang out with you, and you would talk, but then I would watch a video of you talking, and I didn't really need both of those things. So
Also fair.
I supported you as an outlet on your own, but
You
I
did.
did not necessarily watch all of them.
That's fine.
Which
The skeptical
I
comment.
wish I would have watched a few more, because I think I understand your needs of connection in that route a little bit better now. But
Appreciate that. That's not what I meant, and I don't hold anything against you on that front.
Thank you.
I meant more. I was joking at Kevin's expense more that he was like, "How we can't get this much done in a day." When we filmed the first video.
Yeah. When we filmed the first video, Kevin helped Jay film all the intros, because Kevin does film stuff as well, and
You did
Jay
too.
was
You were there the whole time.
highly no, not the whole time. Jay was highly ambitious on what all he wanted to get done, and Kevin was just talking to me, like side channeling with me of like, how do I reset expectations with Jay that we cannot do all, this is like at least a 2-day, this is like 12 hours of work. I don't want to do all of this in 12 hours. And I don't know, you guys probably did in like 6 hours or something.
Yeah, I
but
think so.
Still, it was a lot. But
We were
he was
filming
also
all my
impressed.
intro characters.
He was
yeah.
also impressed because we did them all at different locations, full costume change.
Beard
we
changes.
shaved in the process, and random bathrooms along the way.
Or just in the bushes.
Oh, weird. Funny leaves.
Yep.
So yeah,
But you guys were involved right there.
We were.
At the beginning, and
Yeah,
I
for
appreciate
sure.
it.
for sure.
Weren't a lot of supportive people in my life back then for that stuff.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's the way it is.
I liked hanging out with you.
I did too.
I didn't always give you 25 minutes of my day to talk at me more than on camera
You.
about topics you'd already talked to me about.
25.
But
We can go back and
I'm glad that
check
you
the
did that.
timestamps on these early.
some of them were pretty long.
Some of the thing was, and well, because you're not the only. I mean, Dad and my buddy Mantis. Was it Mantis or was it Swirl? I don't remember.
Never heard either of those names.
So they're
Those
because
are
they're
not
peppers.
humans.
That's their.
Those are types of ice cream.
So both of them, whether it was Swirly / Slush, who I think it might have been Mantis. I don't remember. I'm just coming up with stuff now. We don't need. Do we need context for those
You've been
names, or
hanging
should
out
I
with
just
my
continue?
no, just continue.
So they were the ones between my dad and whichever one of them it was that would tell me that one was a little long.
Yeah, Dad would tell you that, and I would say, Jay, cut it to like 10 minutes maximum.
But 10 minutes was too long. Like I found at the beginning, like all I could really carry was 6 minutes, and
But
then
did
it
you
got
keep it to
really
6
boring after
minutes?
that. Not all the time, and then anytime I didn't, that's when I got responses of like,
Right.
But
little too long.
then as I got better at it and they got longer,
But
those
the thing
responses
is,
came
we
in
were
less.
being critics of a developed artist, and at that time you were an underdeveloped artist. And when you are an underdeveloped artist, what you need is just support and encouragement to continue to develop, which I don't think all of us saw.
But
Unfortunately.
well, that's okay. But also because the fortunate things were one is that the way it was delivered was very good, like from Dad and Mantis, whoever, saying like that was a little bit long. I took that well, hopefully, and was like, oh, I need to go. Maybe I was a little bit more like
You're a
I
little
can do it.
salty.
Okay, I'll
You're
take
always
that.
a little salty about some of that feedback
Yeah?
when it's something that you need. like if it like the outlet was something that you need.
Yeah.
And you were in a tough place mentally anyways. And
Yeah.
so then you were medicating yourself with YouTube in a good way, I think, in
Creatively.
a somewhat
Creatively.
creatively.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Medicate.
And what you needed was just encouragement and support. Like, who cares if it's good or not, honestly. Oh, did you see that rat? There he goes.
Oh, there he goes.
Hello, goodbye.
The famous San Diego succulent rats.
They're just my rats. They just hang out.
And from Paris to San Diego, rats rule the world. What can
They're
we say?
everywhere. They're everywhere in my garden.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get any produce.
But that's also good. I think that's true. I think that generally, to give myself credit, I think I generally do listen and hear and eventually absorb feedback. But I think that sometimes I'm unaware of my response to when people initially
That's
give
fair.
it to me.
That's fair.
And so I didn't think that I was salty about that, but there's a very good chance that I was salty about that when it happened.
Yeah. You were. Understandably.
I'm not surprised.
But yeah. But also the approach. I mean, you were asking for feedback because you like to present things as their complete form when they're incomplete.
I also do that.
You
That's
rush.
a huge
You
fault
rush
of
your
mine.
rough drafts of things
Yes.
to be the final product because you finished it, and that is the end goal for you, not
Yep.
finishing and then refining and optimizing, which I think you have
100%.
absolutely like grown in. And our discussions while you've been here have been indicative of that, of where you're kind of taking YouTube and whatnot. But when you're beginning things, your end goal is to finish. You did the task, so give me the award. But it's not that you were.
Yep.
You did it all that well, or that it's truly complete, because things need revisions
100%.
and need tweaking and need polishing, and
Shitty first drafts.
you
as they say.
you have developed into that more as time goes on, but that also comes with mental health as well.
And maturity.
100%.
I think is.
Yeah.
But no, that's a very big thing about myself that I have had to come to realize or come to grips with is like, yeah, just because it's done doesn't mean it's done.
No.
Which I hate because
Yeah.
I just want it to be. But
Yeah.
I did it.
You
Why
did it,
isn't
and it's off
done?
your plate now. So
But
pat me on the back.
It's very very.
Tell me that
true.
it's good.
Yeah, I want
and carry on.
That's exactly all I want. Why do I have to work harder on it now? I'm done. Yep, I'm learning. I'm learning a lot. But I mean, it's crazy actually too how short of a period of time that was when you look back.
I know, but that's also like the hindsight of like,
Yeah.
that was only
Well,
9
I didn't know
months or
that there was
something, but it was
a light at the end
forever.
of the tunnel,
No, you
you know?
didn't. Not at all. Not at that point in time.
Because I didn't. When I started YouTube, I was still thinking that either Boomerang, the tech startup, was going to go somewhere.
I know, which there's iterations of that out right now, and every time I say it, I'm like, ooh, you guys were onto it. You didn't have all the pieces.
No.
You had 4 out of the 5 pieces.
What was the 5th piece?
I don't know, different capital or different design.
More
or,
money would have been big.
I mean, that's always big. That can get you anywhere.
Well,
but
we didn't have any money. We were all, so for a little context, if you haven't read my book, plug.
it's actually
English.
very good.
Thank you. I do talk about, and that is
Pardon?
edited.
That is edited and revised by our wonderful friend
Richard
Richard
Bilkey.
Bilkey, and he helped force Jay to go through that polishing process, and it is.
He's an
very
actual good and professional editor, and not to knock any editors that I've worked with before. But there's a real difference in somebody who's trained
proofread.
as an editor. Yeah,
I feel like they proofread and then said, "Good job, Jay,"
and that's all I needed.
and then we published items for the world to see, which
See.
were wonderful, but could have been better with
a lot
polishing.
better. Yeah, I was gonna say there's no need to.
There was a gold
sugarcoat
nugget.
it.
There was a gold nugget in
There's
many
some
of
nuggets.
your items.
Actually, well, like
There's many gold
my
nuggets.
original few books, I look at and I'm like, wow, these are terrible, but there's some really fun ideas in them. And it's like there will be stuff to pull out of these and then burn the rest.
I really think you should rewrite most of your books.
That's the plan.
But what I mean by rewrite is you just need to go through that polishing phase. Like I think
Ooh, some of them, yes, not others.
maybe, but I mean some of your shorter ones,
Yeah, could
like
go through some.
Ridge of the Highlands.
Yeah,
Highland Ridge?
Shadows of the High Ridge.
Highland Ridge, High Ridge. Sorry.
Good, yeah, but still
But
good.
like that, and then what is the other Darkness,
Dark
King
Horse.
of Dark Horse.
You're doing fine.
I really like those ones, and I really also liked Couriers. Couriers plays in my brain a lot.
Thanks.
Like I very much live in that, and I was very into Couriers. But there was an element that I would like after I read it. I told you like, you spent way too much time in the middle of the book, and then
Yeah.
the climax happened in 2
Yeah, it was too
pages,
fast.
and then you wrapped it up,
Yep.
and that was like, I felt robbed of my book reading experience of that story because I really enjoyed it. And I really liked you paint really clear mental pictures. Like, you would really developed by the time you got to Couriers, which is one of your most recent books. Like, you'd seen all the work you'd gone through with your previous books or whatever. You could very much see that, but it needed that, it was 100% there in, like, this is a really good working draft. And then you needed that polish to have someone say, okay, this whole section we need to push back here, we need to bring the climax right into here, and then we need to, like, help fade this out a little bit.
I'm pretty sure Richard helped with that one too.
Well, Richard, you need to do a better job.
Richard's dream job, one of them supposedly, is to help me, for context, work on all these science fiction fantasy books that we're talking about. So I've written back when I joined Mercy Ship. We're opening way too many doors here. If you don't know the history, go read Sea of the Unknown. You can get it on Amazon right now.
It is very good. Again, Richard Bilkey credits. Jay Swanson, ghost written by Richard Bilkey. It's phenomenal. Just kidding.
Ghost written.
Jay did great.
It's available. You should get it because it'll fill in a lot of gaps here. But back when I moved to Africa for the first time, South Africa, and I had decided on the way down there, I want to write a book every year for 10 years because that's going to get through the process. I'm going to publish, and then I decided to publish them. I didn't know if I was going to self-publish or not, and then I got convinced by somebody who was killing it on Kindle Direct back when it was just starting. She was just like, just get stuff out. So that was also one of the reasons I just started pushing these things out prematurely. It was also to do very much with the fact that I just wanted it done and gone. Karin is not wrong about any of that. And it also had to do with my insecurities about
100%.
doing traditional, because I didn't want to go through the rejection process. Because that's a nightmare. I liked the control. And I'm glad I did it in retrospect because I learned so much by controlling the whole process. Just does mean that the first few were kind of flaming dumpster fires. So they progress over time.
The core of them are there.
But there's a lot of really good stuff in there.
Very creative, very smart.
Thanks.
You've always been a really good storyteller.
Thanks.
It's just you trip over yourself sometimes by publishing them too fast or whatever else.
Well, and that's the goal.
But that's things like writing a book. You typically, writing an album, doing anything, you need a team to kind of help refine the pieces. But that you have to be vulnerable to that, and you have to welcome that.
Well, that's the goal.
That's hard.
I mean, we've been talking about this some tonight even, but like I realize that my writing has been a vanity project in the sense that it is not likely to actually pay the bills. It's possible to do it. I know people that do it, but
I think that makes it a vanity project.
I
it
think
just
that's
makes it a hobby.
Not if you're planning on it making money for you. Like, I don't know what the definition necessarily of a vanity project is.
A vanity project, A vanity project to me is just like a vanity project is you're going to push something you're not good at because you want the fame.
Okay, maybe that's not fair to myself then. But the point is that like I realized, and this is why I've focused only on YouTube for the last couple of years, and I'm going to probably only focus on YouTube for a little while longer, is because I've realized that YouTube, through my patrons especially, thank you so much. If you're watching this when it first came out or listening to it, you are one of my patrons. You're beautiful, and I'm so grateful for you. And it's because of my patrons that I'm able to do what I do. And hopefully that continues to grow, and then hopefully the opportunities grow with that as far as sponsorship and other stuff. But I recognize, and the whole Paris and tourism side of things, but I recognize that, writing after having published 9 books, probably not going to start paying the bills
really
anytime soon.
stinky burp.
Sorry.
I tried to hide it,
just in case.
but it just like snuck. It was too much.
Is it because of the garlic aioli burger that you took me to eat
it was
earlier?
It was a garlicky beer burp, and I hate both of those things.
The joys of being older brother.
God, what was that? Was that you?
That was my sunglasses. They fell off.
There's too many rats in this yard.
Yeah, we don't. We need to remember.
You might want to grab your sunglasses because they will take them under the deck.
Please don't steal my sunglasses. So you can still hear me because it's a wireless microphone.
Fancy.
The thing is that I've realized that like I'm probably never going to. Well, I mean, someday it could make money, but like not if I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, and
I think to me that goes back to the thing of not everything you do has to make money, and that is a sick part of our culture.
Exactly, but if you don't.
But you need to have the capital for it, and ideally it should break even for you so that you can continue to do it. But that does not make it a vanity project.
No, and so, but that's the point is that like in order to pay the bills, I have to do something, and unfortunately, writing and YouTube take up the exact same creative space in my brain.
Yeah.
Like physically, I can't do both.
Right. You can't do both.
So, or not easily at least. And maybe that'll change as I'm not doing daily vlogging anymore and as we get to a place where I can like split my time a little bit more proactively. But the goal would be to get to a place and build something that does pay the bills and give me a few days a week at least to focus on writing, and to not only that, but pay for that team that comes around
Right.
and helps me to develop it in a greater sense, so that I can take 5 years and really work hard on it before we release anything. Build the skeleton of like the 50 books that are in there.
Right.
So they all connect appropriately, but they're...
But even still, this is again you being. You're also really big picture.
Yeah.
You're big picture, and then you just like. You know that you want to build this huge bridge, and you know exactly how you want to do it. But then when it comes to like, okay, now you got to do the execute. You got to execute on this. You got to do the work. You just like, I don't know what to use for the pillars for it, so I'm just gonna. Let's just put some bricks and you just put like mixed sand and water, and that's the mortar. You know, just get it together,
Yeah.
and like, you. I think because you don't want to fail on the big picture, and you really want to make that big picture come true, and you have the passion for the big picture, but you're not. You have not historically been slow for that. So even with this book project, you don't have to have all 50. Like, I know you want to create this world, and that's always been your dream. And if that's what you want to do, do it. But you don't need to do that. If you just need to scratch your creative itch of, I just want to write a freaking book. I understand how it fits in my world. I'll do the basic elements of outlining the story so that it does fit in my world. But you don't have to take 5 years with a $20,000 $200,000 team or whatever to make that happen.
You're right.
You can just spend the time to do it, and then bring in Richard, as needed, or bring in this person as needed to actually just finish that one thing. But you can do that if you want to, but you don't have to do that.
No, and I was thinking about when I was here originally, I was wanting to work on one of the books that I haven't released yet. If Jeff listens to this, he'll get angry if I just bring it up. But Agnor's Box is...
That's been around for forever.
Wanted to do it for so long. And I've written it, I've drafted it. And it's like Jeff's favorite book that I've ever written.
Oh.
It needs work, and I know that. That's why it hasn't gone anywhere, because I finally learned my lesson.
But then don't let it die in the shadows.
No, it's not going to.
Figure out how to get it forward.
It's a great standalone book. It's fun. It's like modern. I think actually I can rework it to be a really nice reflection and critique on telling my own story for a living in a way as well. I'm really proud of it, and I really, really like it. And that's actually what I was going to work on this trip, when I thought maybe I'll take a break and I'll write.
Right.
So I will do that. The team thing is more because that large scale thing that I want to do, it's not just an editorial team, but it's whether through contracting or whatever. I want to be able to bring on some conceptual artists and a musical composer and start piecing together the visual and audio language. This big picture, she's like definitely looking at me like, you're being ridiculous.
Let's have a musical composer for our book.
It's for the TV and movie.
When you open it, it just has a chip in it.
Could also do that. I wish you could do soundtracks for books so much, because the music's so important to me. And so the goal would be, because you know how they did Mad Max Fury Road?
I know that it was created, and I know when I was 27, I got carded at the movie theater to watch it.
Because you're just a baby face.
Thank you.
And it's a very violent movie. You should be careful. You're very young.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the way they did it is they actually developed a full storyboard for it, like a full in-depth. There was no script. They just storyboarded the entire thing out and made this beautiful, and that's not exactly what I want to do, but I found it very inspiring to say that what I would like to do is, we don't have to fill in all the pieces. What we do need to figure out, I have some very specific end pieces, I have some pieces, so it's more like, let's figure out the skeleton, so we know for sure where this is. Let's figure out a few rules that just simply cannot be broken across the board, because it's important for fantasy and whatever else. And then I know what books I'm going to dive into to work on, but we also know this one story is our best chance for our first movie or our pilot for a show. So that's what I'm going to put you guys on to start working on a little bit more intensely there, but with an eye for everything. So we're building out this aesthetic where if that movie happens to be at this point in history, well, we know that in that region, this is what has happened, and so this is what this will look like. Because Couriers happens at a point that in the history of the world that, again, is a crossroads between a lot of things happening that...
Crossroads.
Nice. That I just wanted to take a moment to make sure that I'm not accidentally writing myself into a really weird corner. And that is a rabbit hole that you could run down forever. So that's why I don't want to I'm trying to learn to back away from that a little bit. And the other side of it is ultimately, hopefully, this is a big enough project where we say, you take that story and you take that story. I don't know.
Another beer?
Sure. I don't know when the camera stops, so this is a good time. While my sister goes and gets me another beer, I guess. Do you mind? I was going to say, you just offered me a beer. And I was going to do the NordVPN sponsor thing while you were doing that.
I can do the NordVPN sponsorship.
Right, my sister's going to sell you NordVPN, and I'm going to go get a beer.
You want to take your glass?
Should
Warm
I just...
Pacifico or cold Pacifico?
I'm just going to stop this. This is ridiculous. Kevin is now joining us, which is great. So to bring you up to speed, because the camera stopped recording and my timer didn't warn us that it was about to stop recording, and I don't know when it stopped recording. I'd like to get back to writing fantasy at some point here soon.
It's recording.
I'm trying to build the life that's going to support that. And Karin is encouraging me not to let the big picture impede me from just doing something, I believe is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which is fair, because that is exactly what it has done.
Because I also just, practically, you don't have the resources to do this.
Yeah, I know.
And historically, you put all of your personal resources into making these big pictures happen without, it's very risky.
Yep.
And taking a risk is fine if you calculate that risk. But
that's why I think right now I'm in a place, the real goal, that's the big vision, the big picture.
Totally,
I want to make my
great.
dark room, right, where we go to develop stuff and it doesn't leave. Like, we work on it and we leave it there.
Sounds creepy.
Dark room, like when you have photography. Mm-hmm. All right, it can be creepy, fine.
You just leave it there though, forever?
You leave the work there until it's ready to come out. So it's like,
But you see, the thing is you always, this is the exact same. Like as a kid, you wanted to make movies.
Yeah, I still do.
But you weren't just like, your goal wasn't like, I just want to direct a movie, or I just want to write a screenplay, or let me do step one that is still a huge accomplishment, and then get that buy-in and then grow. It was, I want to make movies, therefore I have to be the director of an entire movie studio, and like I have to be Tyler Perry. I have to create everything and house everything and do everything and control everything by myself to make my movies, as opposed to just make some movies. Just figure it out. Just figure out the movies part. But sometimes you stop figuring out the movies part. I mean, you have your versions of it, obviously, that you've like done. 5th grade Jason and the Argonauts, key example. But you go to, I'm going to make a movie, therefore I have to be the absolute best and have the biggest studio and have all the funding and have all the whatever. Like, you have to make the big...
Yeah.
You have to do the whole big picture thing instead of just breaking it down to smaller pieces and being content and like fulfilled in those smaller pieces.
Might not be my destiny to be content or fulfilled.
That's fine. That's your cup to sip.
Yep. I think the thing is, that's where to counter that, the near-term goal is to, we've talked about, like, speaking of other big projects that are not realistic right now but are fun to think about, like the Chateau idea, like getting a Chateau, making a YouTube series around that whole process. When I sit down and I write out, like, what is it that I actually want to get out of this, a big part of it is an inspirational and quiet place away from the hustle and bustle to, like, be creative and write.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
So kind of where I'm aiming for right now, and it doesn't have to be a Chateau, I need to figure out what those steps look like, is to carve out time to write. So YouTube is necessary because it's my job and it's what pays the bills. Thank you again, patrons. NordVPN, we haven't forgotten about you. We will get to your sponsorship here in a minute. But the that whole thing of, like, okay, if I can make enough money, if I can work to build a business that will support me and give me some more space and time to write, that is where I'm at right now. Is the focus would be, okay, let's get a few books really truly done,
Right.
and finished. So that is the near-term goal.
I think with maturity, you are getting the smaller steps in place, and you are more content with those smaller steps of like writing a book and whatever else. But I think you trip over yourself by thinking you have to do the whole big shebang, which is fine if that's what you want to do, is the whole big shebang. That is totally fine.
That is what I want to
But
do.
I don't want you. I mean, everything comes at a cost, and I don't want you to not be able to realize that until you're 67 and you die at 78 or whatever. Maybe those are great.
When I'm 60,
11
you'll
years.
realize that when I'm 67, and oh my gosh, 78's coming. Karin told me I was going to die in 11 years.
I was going to say then you die at 68, but then I was like, that's too young, and so then I tried to
never
jump
know.
it up. It's too young.
Well, the thing is that I'm also at a place where I'm more content with it, in the sense of like, if I don't feel like there's anything left undone in a like great existential sense, but in an ambition and what I really want to do sense, there is.
Right.
And what I want
Which
to
I
do
think is
is the big shebang. I want to maintain some control. I realize I can't have all the control. I also don't. That's ridiculous. Like, you want the influence and the collaboration of other people.
Yeah, you're good at that.
So, but now it's like, it's more that, again, what I want to do is very ambitious and nearly impossible. So, okay, well, what is the route that's going to get me there? And that's why it's like, okay, well, writing is important and I need to continue to work on that. But I've spent a decade actively honing that craft, and it's one that I need to get back to. But at the same time, what I could do is try to figure out a way to make the money that would start this process in a real way. And so that's where it's like, okay, well, I've never been a money-driven person. I'm not like looking to make bank, and I've never been motivated by itself. But if I can be like, okay, but if I want to do this big picture thing, have this ambitious project, then that means I need to make a chunk of money, and then that might unlock it.
But that's not, I mean, you need investors. I don't think you can make that chunk of money on your own.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But the thing is, what you can do, and again, for protecting your vision, is you invest a smaller chunk in your pitch, and what you bring this project together that is like, okay, this is ready to roll.
Right.
And you go from there, instead of starting from the point of like, oh, I have a screenplay, and then you hand that over. If you manage to sell it, there's a strong chance that it never gets made into a movie, and now it's just stuck with a studio that will never make it. And if they do make it, they're going to rewrite it 5 times before it hits the screen, and then the whole thing is kind of lost. It's like, in wanting to create something with like the MCU, the only reason that has happened successfully where DC hasn't, I believe, is because you had people shepherding it that believed in what it was, and you already had source material that had been made for it that like created a vision that the fans knew exactly what they wanted.
Right.
So
I think just also, I mean,
you got to come up with your own way of doing it if you want to do what I want to do, and there's just no other way around it.
I mean, there probably is, but
there might be. But you let me know what that is, and
we'll get there when we get to it.
Yeah. So speaking of NordVPN.
So have you ever been at a coffee shop and you think, the guy next to me is going through lots of credit card information? That's when you realize I should be on a VPN. Enter NordVPN. They're great at hiding you, making you think you're from Bulgaria. And you can watch Netflix, French Netflix, when you're in America. You know, it's pretty great, and it helps keep you safe and secure. NordVPN. Use Jay's discount code nordvpn.com / Jay Swanson -VPN.
This one specifically, if you're listening to the podcast or watching this, they gave me a different code. It's specifically nordvpn.com / Jay Swanson VPN. And it doesn't necessarily protect your credit card information, but it does give you access to all the content you want behind country, not paywalls. Countries don't have paywalls, but country location. Like, actually, that's one of the things that really annoys me about. No, there's like firewalls. Well, if you're in China, they're great firewall. VPNs do serve a huge purpose in situations like that. But if you want to access your content from wherever it is that you are, or wherever it is that you're going, if you want to see what's going on, that's a great way to do it. Some of the features that I really enjoy about NordVPN is that it works on multiple devices across like any device that you want, pretty much. A surprising number. I can't list them because I'm sure I'll get in trouble for listing ones, and then one of them will be the one where they're like, don't say that brand name, and I'll be like, oh, I'm in trouble now. So I'm trying to stay at least a little bit vague. But
VPNs are great.
It is really cool, like how you can see stuff that you wouldn't otherwise see. It's really fast. You never notice that it's rerouting your traffic, like seriously really fast. And the quick connect feature makes it so that you can bounce around without really thinking about it. So
that's true.
And they have an auto connect feature, so if you set that, you can set it and forget it, and you're always protected. So anyways, NordVPN. Above all, if you're looking for a VPN, definitely try them out. They've been really kind in supporting both my channel and now the podcast. And they love you guys, apparently, because otherwise they wouldn't keep coming back to me. So thank you so much for having jumped on, if you have jumped on. Appreciate it.
Even I use NordVPN.
It's great.
Can you give me a twinkle?
Twinkle.
Ding.
Yeah. don't know if I'm going to put that much effort into editing the video, but I will.
I'm not worth it.
You're worth it. It's a podcast, though. The fun of it is being unedited.
Well, the whole fact that it's a podcast also on video is a phenomena that still
Blowing your mind.
makes me giggle.
Do you know why they do that, though?
But do you know, what is this lightning?
There was
That was
lightning
the
in case
second
you
one.
can't see.
That was the second one. There's no clouds.
Either that or SeaWorld has really upped their firework game.
Are you mansplaining to me? There's no clouds. There's some clouds. That's lightning.
She's
That was
asking her
lightning.
husband that, not me.
You were the one who told me to go get you a beer.
I didn't tell you to go get a beer. You said,
I said, do you want another beer? And you
I
said,
was
yeah,
like,
go get me one.
No, I said, that was like, oh, this is the perfect transition moment. I was like, yes, while you go get that beer, let me tell you about NordVPN. And you looked at me like, go get you a beer. And I was like, well, I thought you were offering. And then it spiraled, and then we had to cancel that whole segment.
It probably wasn't on.
Over a
after.
miscommunication. No, that was after I started it up again.
Oh. Well,
Yeah, it's okay.
like and describe in the comments what you saw.
Like and describe in the comments what you saw. So like and describe. Please. It's great. It's great engagement. No, it's because with video, there are some people that really like watching podcasts anyways, but
Yeah, I know. I've heard.
Videos only is really about, I don't know about only, but in my mind it's really about discoverability.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I know why you do it. I know a lot of people who do it.
It just blows your mind.
I just don't want to watch a podcast.
It's fair enough. You can listen to this later then. On Spotify or wherever
Will I?
you listen to your.
I
Well,
do,
you can't.
on
When it's a
Spotify.
private, if you're listening to this now and you're not a patron, it means that you're listening to it much later because the first season was recorded and released for my patrons pretty much directly and only on a private podcast feed. Now there's a public podcast feed, or there will be soon, depending on when you're listening to this and if you're a patron or not. And then it'll be available for everybody.
Which is a good reminder that you could support Jay on Patreon for as little as $5 a month.
I think so, €5.
€5 a
like
month.
Yep.
And
Which is
That's
$5
worth-
a month
which is
right now,
$5
which
a
is
month right
crazy
now.
because there's parity on the exchange rate, which is crazy. Exchange your dollars for euros right now, unless it keeps going.
buy him a beer so he can talk to his sister.
I
and
only
hang out
talk
with
to
his
her.
nephews.
I only talk to her and hang out with my nephews with a beer in hand.
Only when you support him on Patreon.
Actually, it's only because of my patrons that I'm here.
Yeah.
Because
thank
this
you.
was an expensive trip, and it was made possible by my patrons.
That's really wonderful.
Because San Diego is expensive. Everything's expensive right now, it turns out. So
Yeah, it is.
I'm very lucky to be here.
Yep, it is.
We've had a good time.
What else do you want to talk to me about, brother?
All kinds of things. Well, what are you willing? What are you willing and able to talk about? So I'll list off some things that I'm proud of you for right now, and if there's anything
We're
you want
switching
to
it
go
back to me.
deeper
Okay.
on,
Okay.
we can go back to me at whatever point.
Can I
But
bleep you if you say something I
you
don't
throw
like?
you throw that ball back at me when you think of something that you think that they would find interesting, because I'm sure that someone is screaming in their car right now, I wanted to hear more about blank, and maybe that was when the
Well,
camera
maybe you
cut
should
out.
have surveyed those people before you talked to me.
Maybe. But so the question, well, things I'm proud of you for right now, current familial shifts with the nephews, which I have a feeling is pretty much no-go zone.
Correct.
But I'm really proud of you, and having been here in person, I already knew from like FaceTiming, quote unquote, with you guys through Signal, how wonderful the kids were and what the dynamics were in the household. I feel like we're in good enough touch that I know roughly. At least seeing it in reality hasn't changed what I thought, like what my impression was of how your family was doing. And I'm very proud of you. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
The kids are great.
They are.
You guys are doing a wonderful job having jumped in the deep end as new parents,
Thank you.
a very deep end with a wave pool attached.
wave pool.
So you guys are doing a really good job. So anyways, I'm very proud of you for that. I'm proud of you for what you're doing at work right now.
Thank you.
Which I think you're crushing it from everything I know there as well.
Thank you.
And I'm happy for you that you're working for a company that finally appreciates you for who you are and sees the value in you and is taking full advantage of the value that you provide, which is good because you definitely have a lot to offer.
Thank you.
So I'm grateful for that, and that you're doing well and you're in a good spot. Kevin's doing a great job. It's quite the transition from being a video professional to being a full-time dad. But he's doing an
He
amazing
shrugged.
job.
He goes,
There's overlap.
there's overlap. Video professional and stay-at-home dad. Yes.
It's a lot of work. that's
From
for
what you
sure.
were doing to what you're doing now, yeah, it's pretty similar.
Managing a team of 20 editors to 2 kids.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It evens out.
Same amount of fires to put out.
Just
Literal.
condensed. 10 times fewer employees, same amount of fires.
Yep.
But yeah, and just grateful to see that you're in a good spot, which makes
Thank you.
me just feel
Something you
Good.
didn't mention that I would be willing to talk about is my flower garden.
Let's talk about your flower garden before you sacrifice it to the
Rat gods.
rat gods, or maybe someday another bedroom.
That would be real nice.
No.
I have 3 raised garden beds in my garden, and I found this whey-based stain because you want to be very careful of, because all toxins will soak into the soil, which will then go into your food, and
Okay.
you obviously don't want to eat that. So if you're doing organic-based gardening, you have to be very mindful of everything that touches your soil.
A whey-based stain.
So I found this whey, as in like milk, based stain to seal the wood. So we used untreated cedar, which is weather resistant and all the things.
I don't
It's
understand why the rats like your place so much.
Yeah, it's
Milkwood.
yes, they don't touch it, but that's okay. But it's like a black stain too, so it's all trendy.
Yep.
So I have them stained with like an appropriate non-toxic stain, and used untreated cedar and organic soil. And I love gardening and tending to the garden and growing my garden and planting fruits and vegetables for us to eat. And I don't really ever get to eat any of it because I wind up feeding the rats all year long. And I'm proud of myself for caring so much about the rat colony.
You've definitely helped this rat
Put
colony
hundreds
out.
of dollars into this garden for the rat colony.
What a satisfying end to all this labor of love.
So satisfying.
Is there any way to
Doesn't
stop the
ever
rats,
make me
or
want
is
to
it-
stab my eyes out. No, rats are incredibly smart.
Yeah, they're.
Incredibly smart.
There's a reason they take over
I just
everything.
saw that they can have trained rats to wear tiny little backpacks, and they'll go into rubble after buildings have collapsed or like after earthquakes, and they have a little switch on their backpack. It's like a GPS homing beacon or something. And when they find a person, they flip their switch, and then they turn around and go back out and get a treat. So imagine just being stuck in rubble, and then you just see a rat show up and just like looks at you, and you're probably terrified because there's a rat, but then it has a little backpack on, and it just turns around, and then it just turns right back around and runs out, and that's actually what saves your life.
And you know that much later because you're just saying, did I just hallucinate that rat with a backpack in this building?
Yeah, or that's what actually gives you the heart attack that puts it over the edge.
Also
Anyways,
possible.
rats are incredibly intelligent, and so you just have to kind of make it as inhospitable to them as possible. But wherever there's food, they're going to go to it because they are animals looking out for their survival. And I am providing plenty of food. So honestly, I've done a lot of research. The only way I can truly control them is by having a cat. But we have dogs who will not allow that to happen, unfortunately. So we do have some stray feral cats nearby that one of them currently, he's this very cute little black cat, and I think he understands the boundaries of the yard, but I hope he comes in here at night. But based off of the rat we just saw, I don't think he is coming in the yard enough.
Not doing it enough, no.
But truly what we need is a cat.
Could you
and
get like a
we
scare
can't.
cat? Like a scare rat, I
no.
guess technically from a scarecrow, but it would be instead of a man on a thing, it'd be a cat on a thing.
I think rats are neophobic, so they're afraid of, I think that's the correct word, they're afraid of new things. So they will avoid a new thing for a day or two until they realize it's like not a threat, and then they can operate outside of it.
So you just need to switch it out every day.
Yes.
Or maybe move
Spray it
into
differently.
a new position.
Spray it with a different cat
It's like
smell every day.
claymation, just different stages every day.
Yeah, but even still, at some point, one of them will go for it. And
What about decoy food?
decoy food, like a decoy. No, they're smart.
Couldn't you just set out a
Make it
buffet?
easier to get to.
Oh, set out a little buffet for them.
Yeah, just feed the rats.
Yeah, and then more of them will come.
That might backfire.
Yeah, I feel like this is
I like that
feeding
idea,
a stray
though.
cat.
I like that idea.
And then
Like,
suddenly
hey,
you have
guys,
40 stray
Here's
cats.
the food for you. I got you some pizza.
Yeah. Someone is definitely going to say, tell your sister about this. Trust me, I've looked into it. I've looked into all of it for years. I've tried to solve this problem. I've asked other farmers. I've asked other gardeners. All of them go, oh yeah, I don't really have a rat problem, but we have a cat. And that is the only solution, is to just create your boundary with a cat.
Because
And
they're scared of the cat, that's why.
the cat will kill them. The
Right,
cat is
the
a
ca-
hunter.
But the cat won't kill 1,000 rats. I mean, they'll kill a lot.
2 rats can make 1,200 rats
More
in a
than
year.
that even, right?
1,200 rats in 1 year.
Yeah. So is the cat actually killing all of them, or do they realize, oh, there's a cat there?
Well,
and then they go
there's
somewhere
not
else?
1,200 rats in my yard right now. There's like
For all we know, they could all be under the floorboards waiting for us to go to sleep.
There are a lot of them under
That's
the
why you were
floorboards.
worried about my sunglasses
I
getting
was.
taken away.
They do come out and they chew on the little berries right there. Anyways, I've done all the things. I have
It's
a
like in
rat trap,
Ratatouille when
which
she
we don't
shoots
need to
the
get into,
chandelier out and then it's just nothing but rats.
Yes. We just watched that with the kids. It was great.
I just watched that with my dad.
We kept on being like, "This is Paris. This is where Uncle Jay lives." What? What?
With all the rats?
Oh, okay. But then we're watching Dinosaur King right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a Japanese anime type
It's a
cartoon
weird
show from
combination,
the
yeah.
90s.
Is it really that old?
90, maybe 2000s. I don't actually know how old it is, but one of the all of the dinosaurs have like their dinosaur name, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but then their like name, their like pet name, and one of them it's like a, I don't know what it's, a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something, and and its name is Paris, and so the boys are really into learning how to spell Paris right now. Because they hear
Because
us
of
talk
him,
about that, but
yeah.
it's actually because of the dinosaur, not because of you.
Of course it's because of the dinosaur. I understand. I can't stand up to dinosaurs.
You're high on the totem pole, but not quite dinosaur high.
That's pretty high.
I would say you're just under dinosaurs.
If I supersede dinosaurs at some point, I will have made it
They will have grown up.
in the boys' book. They will have grown up. Or not. What if one of them becomes a paleontologist?
That could happen.
Yeah. And then
They
if I
can be
supersede it
whatever they
then,
want to be.
as long as they don't become a jaleontologist, we'll be okay.
You have some of those already.
I just would rather my nephew not become one of those.
Agreed. There's more important things to study, more interesting things to study.
Yes, 100%. I fully agree. Well, one of the threads that I was going to bring up, because I was thinking about bringing it up with multiple people as part of the ongoing conversation, and maybe I'm just interested.
What are my thoughts on politics? Well, I'm so glad that you asked.
Cut! I was going to say, well, I mean, we could, but
No.
I was going to say maybe you can help set the tone for the next season.
I would love to set the tone.
It's a good tone. Wish I knew my tones well enough to be like, wonderful, A flat.
That is a nice. Kevin probably knows. He's
Very
like
well
tweaking in the
done.
corner.
I
Why did you do
appreciate
that?
that. Yes. What a lovely sound.
Thank you.
I want to talk, because I'm going to definitely go and look at, because I'm already fascinated by them anyways, I'm going to go look at more Chateau. In the countryside. I've met some people who are renovating their own, and then it'd be fun to go see some that are open and available and some that are for sale. Just think it'd be interesting video content, and I personally would be very interested. Get me on the road again for road tripping, because I really want to do that. That's why I got my driver's license, and it's part of the reason I got Cooper, because I wanted a road tripping buddy. And
Because dogs can drive. You can like have driving shifts.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you've seen him stand up in the window? He's ready for it.
See all 4 pounds of him. He's a cat.
Kitty Cooper. So, I guess the question is,
Have I purchased and renovated a castle before? Yes.
yeah, the Yellow Barn Castle.
Yes. Continue.
So then,
A barn is a castle.
so it depends on the person, obviously, what I'm going to ask. But I was kind of thinking along the lines of when sitting down with friends, just kind of asking that question of like, if you had a castle, what would you do with it?
If I had a castle, what would I do with it? I would break it down and share the pieces with the farmers to rise us all in equity.
Which farmers?
When Kevin looks at me like that, I know I said something that was stupid, and he's just like, oh, good job,
Are
honey.
you raising equity in the castle or between each other?
Between each other.
Right. Good.
What did you say?
if you had a
bought
castle, so if you were just to come to my castle,
If I were to come to your castle.
whatever it is, but whatever sparks your interest in this situation, like, would you want to plan and work the gardens to feed the people that live there, or at least add something to what we're eating as far as like what's fresh and what's available? Would you what is it that would actually spark your interest in spending some time there? And if you had your own, what would you want to use it for? This is what I'm also asking you is like how to best formulate this question in sitting down with friends and kind of pitching that, like, well, I'm just curious, because if I'm sitting with somebody who
I don't know.
has
I feel like
renovated a castle,
you just open it up of like, would you buy a chateau? If so, what would you do with it? And just let them go wherever their brain goes. Like, if you were to buy a chateau, what would you do with it? And just whatever their answer is will reveal itself. You don't need to guide them into their interests or whatnot, because should your chateau have a garden and grounds or whatever? Yeah, for sure. But what I want to do is I would want to renovate and flip and interior design the chateau, because that's what I enjoy doing when I flip houses. Is I like doing the interior design element, and I really like doing that.
What would you then do with like a 70-room chateau?
70-room chateau.
Possibly
I would
total.
sell it.
Well, some of them, I mean,
because
like
it is a
17
liability.
bedrooms and a bunch of other rooms. Yeah, they're huge. Though, I mean, they're not
all of them
huge.
are that big.
Not all of them are that big, but
You don't need
they
one
can
that
be.
big.
I'm just checking on the timer here. We have like 2 or 3 more minutes. Oh.
Cool. And everyone's saying, "Oh, thank God."
I think those people have already stopped listening.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not my dream.
That's fair, but would you, so you want to do the interior, let's scale it back to something that's like more like 10 or 20 rooms.
That's still too many.
It is a lot. Would
Didn't
you
say
approach
17
that as like a
rooms and then you
thematic?
scaled it back to 20?
No, I said like,
A thematic?
I was like between 70, I started with 70 and then it's like 17, okay, like, was it 10?
20.
Yeah, but like would you, like how would you want to restore it to the way it always was? Would you want to make it something new?
That depends on the purpose of it, because I think my perspective of going into renovations and flips is always this is my house, so I'm going to make it be, I want it to be what I want it to be, even if that's like a risky design choice for resale. But at the end of the day, I also am designing it with resale in mind. So in your perspective, it depends on the purpose of the chateau. So are you going to it's up to you. Like, do you want to return it to its original 1600, I don't know how old these things are, but
Depends on when it was built.
1600s, like, state of existence. There is a market and a whatever for that, and that's a lot of work and a lot of nuance and detail and historical study, and but people are into that, and that could be great for resale. Or do you do a kind of modern, like, renovation type thing, or do you do a full remodel and make one room entirely neon green and the other room entirely wallpapered and the other room, like, or whatever. Like, that, all of it is up to you and the purpose of it. If it's to be your house and something you enjoy and want to do, you just get to make that choice. But I approach things from a perspective of how long am I going to be in this house? Is it going to be 20 years? So we're going to remodel this again at some point. Then just do whatever the heck I want now. And then when we remodel it again, we'll make it a little bit more palatable to the general public for resale. But still, just, if you're going to live in it, make sure that it fits you to some degree. Even if that includes an entire bedroom being neon green, I think that's great.
Like your yellow and black room.
Yes. Yes, my bedroom as a child was
we painted the walls, all kinds of things.
bright yellow walls with pink trim and black trim and blue trim and green trim and navy blue ceiling, popcorn ceiling, and then I cleaned the black paintbrushes on the walls, so there was just like stripes all over the walls. And then you painted a monkey pooping.
I did. I misspelled monkey butt.
Yep.
I realized it too late. I also drew a biohazard symbol.
Yes, you did. I had a radioactive symbol.
Anyways, thanks for watching and listening.
Sure, it's already turned off by now.
It's been wonderful. It might have turned off. That's okay. It can end like that, I suppose, as well. There'll be one more episode in this season, if it's still recording, and we'll see you for that. It'll be a monologue, as the name implies.
Adios.
Oh, it's still recording. We're good.